I'm with John Cannell, the 6 times Parish Walk winner, who celebrates his 65th birthday next Wednesday. And we're going to, over the course of 3 interviews, we're going to look at the life and the achievements of John. And we're going to go right back to the start. Tell us, John, where were you born and where you brought up and where do you live now?
Well, I was born in Douglas, and I lived in Onken up until the early 60s, and then we moved down to Palace Road with my parents. We had a boarding house down there, and then I moved out to the nunnery, by the nunnery there in 1977, and I now live in Cronkbone Village.
And you went to school in Douglas? And
went to school in Ballacameen and St Ninians.
And you've worked all your life in the post office?
Not quite all my life, no. I started as a clerk in Shannon Neal's in Athol Street.
I never knew that.
And, and then I went to Ballamona as a nurse, male nurse, and then I left there, and then I went in the post office in 1966 and stayed there for 39 years.
And that meant you retired in 2005, if I get my quick arithmetic right.
Yeah.
And how are you enjoying your retirement?
I think it's great. Yeah. I travel a lot and go away to concerts, things like that, and I find it great.
So let's go back to the start of your walking career.
Yeah.
You did the very first Peel to Douglas, I think, in 1961. Right. Was that your first race, or did you do other things before
I had
that?
Been doing other races, yes. We had races that aren't in existence now, and how long the Peel to Douglas is going to go, we don't know yet. But yeah, we had little races like around South Barrule and things like that, around the houses in Onken. Oh.
And how did you come to get talked into doing your very first one?
Well, the first real thing was the Parish Walk relay, and it was 4 in the team, and I used to go out walking instead of playing cricket and football, which I didn't like too much, so we had permission to go out walking, Graham Young and myself, and we eventually entered the team.
This is from school?
This is from school, yes. We used to go out with a teacher called George Southern. He used to take us out and things like that, and we eventually ended up putting 3 or 4 teams into the Parish Walk relay in 1961. So
that does mean that puts you pretty close to 50 years in the sport then.
Yeah. I'm about the only one still going, I think.
Well, Graham's on the scene, but he's not taking part anymore.
No.
And were you good at it from the start, or did you develop?
It took a little while, about 2 or 3 years, and about 1963 I started running a few races. The top man at the time was Bobby Cannell, and managed to beat Bobby a few times, and I was on the scene for 2 or 3 years until Hayden Gorn arrived, and Phil Bannon. But
yeah. They both went to the Commonwealth Games in 1966, I think.
That's right.
You didn't make that. I think
no.
I think you put up a fight for it, did you? There were some trial races on.
That's right. Yeah, Jamaica Cup walks they were called, 20 miles.
And what were the sort of times being set for 20 miles, and how close did you get?
I was doing about 3 hours 15, which wasn't that good, but I don't mind.
But so where did the Parish Walk fit into the 60s for you? When did you first take part in the Parish Walk?
1961. I got to Derby.
And you didn't do it every year though.
No.
You didn't. That wasn't your main goal in life, because you actually finished the 100 miles before the Parish Walk.
That's right. Yes.
How did you get to do the 100 miles?
I don't know. I think it's something Graham and myself always wanted to do. We trained hard for it, and it just came about, and very happy to say we both finished it.
In what time?
Graham Young did 20 hours 24 minutes, and I did 21 3/4 hours.
And that was in Leicester, was it?
That was Leicester to Skegness.
Oh right, you can't imagine doing that sort of course nowadays.
Well, no.
And the following year came the Parish Walk, your first Parish Walk. What do you remember about that?
Well, I remember Albert Johnson winning it in 15 hours 54 minutes. And we had to go over Balearic that year because there was rockfall at Bulgan Bay. And the guy that was backing me up had a transistor radio in his van. And I was going over Balearic, and Albert Johnson was coming round by Port Jack Chippy. He was that far ahead of me.
Right.
It's brilliant.
It was good. So the technology is not so new to the parish walk as we thought then. You know, to actually hear what was going on.
As I started to climb Balearic, I was in 3rd place. Lys Neal was actually in 2nd place, but he retired at the top of Balearic. So I got into 2nd place.
And then the following year you went to the Commonwealth Games.
1970 I went to the Commonwealth Games.
Sorry, I'm a year out. Experiences of the Commonwealth Games. What was the whole atmosphere like and how did you get on?
Absolutely brilliant. To mix with some of the top athletes like Ron Clark and Kino and all that, it was absolutely brilliant. Loved it.
And tell us how you got on. I know it's probably not your greatest achievement, but...
I did 2 hours 56 minutes. I was in 15th place, so...
How did you feel at the time?
There were 1 or 2 behind me, not many, but...
How did you feel? Did you feel at that time you'd be back for another one?
Yes, I thought maybe, yes. I give it a go, but it didn't work out, so I'm not too disappointed. I've been, so I'm happy. So
we're talking mainly about the Commonwealth Game, about the Parish Walk. What was the Parish Walk like in the 60s after the initial excitement of people probably not believing they could get round the 85 miles? It all quietened down a bit. I mean, what was it like when you first got round? Were there big crowds?
It was a mountain to climb. It was like Everest, everybody... compared with these days, so many people finishing it, and in those days it was a miracle to finish. Because you only have to look at 1977, there was only one finisher, Steve Gardner. So, people train for it these days, but not to say we didn't train for it then, but it was, like I say, a miracle to finish it.
Well, you mentioned 77 when Steve Gardner was the only finisher. The year before that was your first win. What do you remember about that?
I remember Murray Lambden coming second.
I was a long way behind.
It was nice to win it. It was lovely to win it, I must admit.
Were you emotional?
Yeah,
I remember I was coming behind you.
I was crying coming down Royal Avenue, because that's the way it affected me. I was just so happy to finish, I suppose, let alone win.
Like lots of athletes, you probably made a mark in the sand. You finished the Parish Walk, if you won the Parish Walk, and probably said, "That's it. What have I got to achieve?" But did you ever go through those emotions and think, "I'm moving on to something else now after winning it"?
I suppose so. Yeah, and I think building up to the 100 miles again, and things like that, and you'd always say, "Oh, never again," but you do, and. I was quite happy to move on to the 100 miles and try and better my times.
I don't think you did the Parish Walk in 77, the year when Steve Gardner was the only finisher.
I think I may have been in it, I'm not too sure now.
But in 78 you were back, and I remember you retiring at Andreas that year, when I thought you should have carried on, because we walked together approaching Bride, if I recall, and I don't think you realised how rough I was feeling at the time. But
you tell me this, but I can't remember it
now. And 79 was the year that you finished. You were probably proud to finish in second place that time, because Derek won, and I think for a long time people thought that was the record that, well, it did stand for a long time.
A long time, yes.
And I'm just checking as I'm talking now, because I can't remember the next couple of years, but 1980, yes, I do remember you retiring at Derby, on that occasion. I think I just happened to be there on the scene. But you came back to 2 more wins in 81 and 82. What was the opposition like then?
I can't remember, to be honest. I think I won it in 81, 82 and 83, I think.
Right. But you don't remember much about those years?
No, I can't remember.
The first hat-trick at that time.
Yeah.
And you can't remember a hat-trick?
Oh, I can remember the hat-trick, but I can't remember much about the races now.